Hey there, and thank you so much for tuning into my channel. Today we're going to be discussing the controversial topic of the Fyre Festival and things that you can take away as an event planner of what to do and what not to do. So if this is of interest to you, this is the video for you to be looking at. So before we get into it, if you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is April Knight-Copeland. I'm the president of Public Events by April, LLC. We are located in New York City, and I have 10 years of event planning experience. I planned events for major companies as well as weddings, fashion events, corporate events, upfronts. So I'm very well versed in the space of event planning. We're just now gonna dive into the Fyre Festival debacle. So I know that there were two versions of the Fyre Festival documentary. There was a Hulu version and a Netflix version. I only saw the Netflix version, so I can't speak to the Hulu version. So everything that I'm going to be giving you today are the lessons that I pull from the Netflix documentary. So the first thing we're going to talk about is talent calling shots. This is very, very controversial. And for those who haven't seen it, I'm just going to give you an overview of what the documentary from Netflix was about. Pretty much it was just diving into all the issues that happened with the Fyre Festival, who was in charge, who did what, when, how, why, and why it failed. So let's get into the positive first. Before we go into talent, let's get into the positive. So Billy McFarland, who was like the head dude in charge, who controlled all the church's money, he, in theory, wanted to be a visionary. And he brought on Ja Rule as talent to help sell this Fyre Festival to people. Now, me personally, I didn't even know there was a Fyre Festival until after the Fyre Festival happened. I think I heard a little bit about it, but not to the extent that I wanted to go. That's just me. I didn't hear anybody that was a part of the Fyre Festival of any interest to moi. So it wasn't targeted to a consumer like myself, but it was targeted to people who wanted to pay for this high-end luxury Coachella experience on an exclusive island, honey. And it failed because even though they had this great idea, no one thought it through. So that's what we're gonna jump into now, which is the first phase is talent calling shots. I wrote a blog post about it, and I also have a podcast episode on this too, if you want a little bit more information about my thoughts for each platform. But my problem with talent calling shots is that a lot of times, I'm not going to say 9 times out of 10, a lot of times talent don't know what they're talking about because that's not their stilo, okay? They hired you to figure it out, okay? It's not their responsibility to figure out where this go. They're supposed to just do what they're supposed to do, perform, and keep it pushing. So I think in this situation, because Billy had all the coins, people just listened to him, and he hired some of the best people in the game to help assist with this festival, but no one felt like they could challenge him because he had people underneath him who, if they said or did something that Billy didn't like, they was cutting their heads off. And I think with that, an easier way to resolve that is isolation. Whenever you have an issue with talent, it's better to start with the people around them and then talk to talent directly. I think in the Billy Ja Rule situation, Ja Rule wasn't spending any money. None of his money was involved in any of this. Please understand, Ja Rule was not spending any of his coins for the Fyre Festival. He was getting some form of payment and notoriety from it, but he wasn't putting any money in the pot. So he was just like, whatever, I'm gonna go on what Billy says. But I think if people challenged them, it wouldn't have ended as badly as it did, because no one really wanted to challenge Billy or even push Ja Rule to challenge Billy because they weren't spending any money. And at the end of the day, it was really Billy's idea. But that's part of the problem. Like, if you're hiring me to do a job for you, I'm gonna, for the integrity of the event, I'm gonna tell you what's real and what's not real and what we can and can't do. If you don't like that, then just like he did, he was firing people until he found yes people. But I think as talent, you have to remember that that's not your job. You know, we figure out the logistics. You hire a team of people to make you look good. So you can't be telling me what you can and can't and what you is and what you ain't. Okay. Your job is to entertain. Your job is to be talent. And unless you have that role and experience of being a creative director or it's your thing, cool. But if not, I mean, I don't see why anyone allowed Billy to make any executive decisions when he had no experience. That's a no-no. And that's a lesson to event professionals because, yes, you want to make your client happy, but there has to be a point where you're like, no, this is not going to work. It's not going to work. I'm not going to attach myself to this sinking ship. I'm out. Because as an event planner, you have a responsibility to the community, to investors. You have a responsibility to people. And it's ethics, okay? You can't just put something together knowing it's defrauding people. And then the other thing that Ja Rule said, that it's not lying, it's not fraud, it's false advertisement. Really, sir? Really? How would you feel if you signed on to do a concert over another country, okay? And you did all this work getting there, and they had you on billboards and then said, oh, you know what, never mind. You know, we're gonna put someone else in your space. You wouldn't like that. You wouldn't be saying, oh my God, that's not fraud, it's false advertisement. You would want your coins, okay? It's the same thing. You can't go into putting experiences or attaching your name to something and not hold any ethical responsibility, social responsibility to your consumers. That's not how any of this works. And as an event planner, you want to make sure that you're sticking to your ethics and your code of how you conduct your business so that you're not hurting people, defrauding them at the end because it ruins your reputation. I know now that Ja Rule has some other platform he's trying to pitch. Run, sis, run. Do not get involved with anything that he's trying to do, because at the end of the day, if that's how he feels about the Fyre Festival, imagine how he really feels about any other thing that he's attaching himself to. And I'm sorry, the way that I'm set up, if that's how you feel about me in general, we have to try and save it. It's not false advertisement. I mean, it's not fraud, it's false advertisement. You still want to keep all the church's money for yourself, then you will be by yourself. Because I'm not supporting anything that a person has and they're not doing it with integrity and goodwill to serve the community. So that's the first thing. The next topic is, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Now, let's go into the good portions of this whole plan. So Billy's idea, in theory, was a successful idea. He actually had a good idea. And the marketing video was the idea where it's this curated high-end Coachella experience for the elite people who got the coinage and want to be around elite people being fabulous, okay? The problem is Billy is not fabulous. He's never been a fabulous person. So he don't know how to execute that. He became fabulous by spending all the church's money, but he didn't come from that background. You can tell that Billy had no experience in this lifestyle he was trying to create because he didn't know how to do it. The marketing video that they put together was solid, but the failure part of the plan is that's it. He just thought about the end result. He didn't think about, okay, well, how am I gonna get from Z to A? how am I going to logistically plan this out? Him and Ja Rule, they just wanted to be around all the girls and kiki and do all the party stuff with them, but they didn't have a plan. And they hired people to help them, but they didn't want to listen to them because they just wanted the outcome. They just wanted to party with everyone. They didn't want nothing else. They didn't want to be involved in nothing else. And you cannot do that, especially when you're a decision maker. And that's another reason why sometimes talent can't be making decisions, because at the end of the day, you have to plan for all this stuff. A lot of the logistical problems that they had started when they had to move from the first island because they disobeyed the owners by saying it was Pablo Escobar's old island. So they disobeyed them. So they kicked them off and they had to find another place to have it. And another issue that comes up is spending the money. So a lesson for event planners. A lot of times when you're working with clients and they have money, the money that you're spending up front is not the money you need on the back end. 90% of the time, the deposit is only up to 20% of what you need. So you still need 80% or more to finish out the event. And when you are planning something for a long period of time, it can seem like you'll accumulate the money other places. But if you don't have a plan on how you're going to spend and save the client's money, then when you really need it towards the tail end of the event, you're not going to have it. And that was Billy's problem. He spent all the money getting all them young girls, all the Instagram models, all them chicks you flew out. Okay, he flew them out. He flew Ja Rule out. Everybody was flew out. Fabulous. They spent all the money being fabulous and getting people flued out. Okay, that's cool. But what about the back end? Like, what about when you actually have to pay the talent? What about when you actually have to logistically figure out how these people want to eat, where they're going to stay, where they're going to go to the bathroom? That's the stuff that you have to plan for, and they didn't, because they just wanted to be fabulous and be flued out. Okay? So lesson here is, it's great that you know that, like, what you envision, but you have to plan to get there. Because if you don't have a plan to get to that part, it's not going to be successful. No event that is successful just happens. It takes a lot of planning. And another thing too, if you're doing large scale events, something really realistic that people can relate to is a wedding. If you're doing something like that involves a lot of people, you need at least 6 months to a year to plan that out. Some people need 18 months. And it's not just for the logistical, but it's for the money. The money, sis. So if you don't have the money to have a wedding in 3 weeks, then you can't have a wedding in 3 weeks. It's the same thing. You think Coachella was built in a day? No. It takes a long time to build these huge, huge festivals, award shows, concerts. It takes years sometimes to execute one day. So just keep that in mind when you're working with the client and they have all these outlandish ideas. It's like, boo, that's cute, but are you going to have the funds when it's needed on the back end? And are you able to execute what you need with the money allocated now? Because all of the money really is when it's due, just before the event is due. And they didn't plan for that. They just wanted everybody to be flued out and being cute. But when it came time to execution, they couldn't because they spent all the money up front. That's why you have to have a plan.